You're listening to the Already Cancelled podcast.
I got a bad feeling about this.
We have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go.
Let's put a smile on that face.
These allegations are false.
What's your profanity?
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
What is up, Patriots, and welcome to the Already Cancelled podcast, where we rant about social issues from our Christian perspective and look deep at life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. My name is John, and I'm joined today by my esteemed co-host, Nathan. How are you, Nathan?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty all right. A little bit tired. Life's a little crazy right now, but, you know.
So, John, why don't you run us through the 4 topics that we got for today?
Looks like today we're going to be talking about the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There's quite a bit of controversy around her successor. Successor. That's the right word. So we'll be diving into that a little bit. We'll be looking at the Nobel Peace Prize that Trump was nominated for, as well as another Peace Prize that he was awarded. Actually won. Yeah. We'll be talking a little bit about Kanye West because he's always interesting. The ever crazy but always intriguing influencer. And lastly, we'll be talking about the presidential debates coming up next week and the hopes and dreams of that and kind of what we're looking forward to. So, Nathan, why don't you kick us off, give us a little history about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and that whole situation.
So, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was appointed under Bill Clinton many years ago, I believe in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And
he was president in the 90s.
Yeah, and has been around for quite a while. She died at the age 87, so ripe old age there. Suffered a bunch of bouts of cancer, defeated some went into remission, but we're unsure as to really what got her yet, as far as I know.
She sounded like quite a fighter, though. Like, from what I know, she'd gone through a lot, like you just said, a lot of cancer, a lot of different stuff. She'd been in and out of the hospital the past couple months and years. She reminds me a little bit of one of my grandmas, just, fighting through a lot of stuff. And, it sounded like she wanted to retire back in 2017, but unfortunately Hillary Clinton did not win the election and was not therefore able to nominate a successor for her, so she hung on and unfortunately passed before she was able to retire.
Well, and really that boils down to the unfortunate aspect of the Supreme Court, that it has become political. That certain justices would rather retire under a certain administration than others. Obviously, they may not all get along, but realistically, it should be for the best interest of the American people versus the best interest of themselves or a party. And with that being said, it is politicized this election big time. I don't think it's too late to bring that topic up. She has passed. It's tragic. We mourn with the family. It's a terrible loss to lose someone you love. But now it is America. She held a position of power, and it's a time for change, and we'll see how that change is implemented. So it really boils down to, a lot of people say the president shouldn't appoint a nominee, and we're gonna delve into that. So what that means, the president should he appoint a nominee, John? Yes,
he should. It is the president's constitutional duty to nominate a successor for the Supreme Court.
Now, when he nominates a successor for the Supreme Court, that means he or she, and he said it's a she, will automatically be on the Supreme Court?
Wrong.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wrong.
Wrong. No, actually, all the president does is they nominate someone, and then it goes to the Senate, and the Senate will confirm that nomination, or they'll deny it, and that has happened in the past. And
or they may even table it.
Yeah, and the real issue that this one's coming down to is looking back at 2016, at the end of President Obama's presidency, there came an opening. I believe it was Judge Scalise passed, and so President Obama, he put forth his nomination. The end of his presidency, he was not going to be reelected. This was the end of his second term. And so he put forward a nomination, and the Republican-held Senate, they tabled that. And it sat there for over 200 days, and they neither confirmed nor denied it. And eventually, after President Trump was elected, he put forward his nomination, and it got passed because
that was Gorsuch.
Because they just didn't act on it. And so it's not up to President Trump to nominate or not nominate. He's not, automatically guaranteed whoever he puts in. And that's what a lot of people are wanting to say. It's up to the Senate, but it is his job as president to, to make that nomination, to put forth someone, whether the Senate approves of it or not.
Well, and it may not be his first nomination. A lot of people tend to think that, whoever he nominates is just going to get it if the Senate agrees with it, or it's controlled by the Republicans or Democrats based on who's in power. Well, not necessarily. They may find that the person he nominates is unfit for the position, Republicans and Democrats, and they may tell him, hey, nominate somebody else. That has happened in the past. Now, it's not very common, but it does happen. And realistically, the Supreme Court is the only position where you can be appointed for life. There is no stipulations. Now, should there be? That's a very valid question and something we could dive into at a later time. But realistically, what it boils down to is he said he's going to appoint a woman. We assume it's going to be someone who votes pro-life, and that's a big issue because that could overturn a lot of precedent in the past and could help bring laws back that maybe we don't agree with the decisions that were made there. And what this would do is flip the court from a more liberal-leaning court to a more conservative-leaning court, and that's what's blowing liberals' minds. Okay, that's what's telling them to, we need to torch the establishment if he does this. Now, the violence, I don't condone that. I don't endorse that. But what we're going down to on this is it's made this election all that much more important. It's really brought the independents to say, who do you want to nominate a Supreme Court justice, and maybe potentially get that justice onto the court.
Yeah, definitely. Like we kind of touched on, this is really a hot button topic because going back to 2016, Mitch McConnell and the Republican Senate did not accept President Obama's nomination. And that did set a precedent of not, allowing the nomination during an election year. However, this year is a little bit different for a couple reasons. Firstly, President Obama was not going to serve a second term. This was his last-ditch effort at, making a standing legacy in the courts. And secondly, it was a Republican Senate and a Democratic president. They have the right to do that. There's nothing that says they have to approve it.
Or even discuss or, have a hearing.
So they were well within the law to do that.
Well, and now we boil down to what is the urgency behind putting forth the Supreme Court nominee? And this is where it gets very interesting, okay? So this year, due to the epidemic, a lot of states are saying mail-in voting is okay, and they're going full mail-in voting, or certain counties are doing mail-in voting, and it's really become a quagmire, okay? If we can go to Walmart and go shopping with a mask on, we, by Jove, can go vote, okay? So there
were a lot of people that weren't wearing masks at Walmart the other day.
Yeah, I went today, and there were quite a few not. And you know what? Regardless,
whatever,
I don't feel
fine.
bad. I don't have any ill will to that. Okay, to each their own. It's a free country, and it should be a freedom decision, not a decision of do this or die.
But like you're saying, if we can go to Walmart, then we can go do our constitutional, privilege to go vote.
Yeah, no, exactly, and it's our right. Okay, and we have given that freedom to ourselves and told the government this is what you shall do, which is the difference between us and other countries. But what happens is, potentially there's a lot of room for fraud in mail-in voting. Ballot harvesting can be an issue, and we could delve into that. But realistically, how does this tie into the Supreme Court? So what happens is the Supreme Court can sometimes make the decision as to whether or not votes are counted if we go back to the 2000 election with Bush and Florida. Okay, it was a big issue. I believe he was running against Al Gore at the time.
Yeah.
And what happened, it boiled down to the Supreme Court. If it's 4v4, or no, what was it?
Yeah. So if we do not push forward a Supreme Court nominee, and we go into this election, which is looking to be hotly contested, they're speaking about neither side, accepting the results. They've primed Joe Biden not to accept a loss. They're saying that Donald Trump will not accept a loss, and it looks like he probably wouldn't because there's a large chance for fraud. So if it does come down to the Supreme Court, and we only have 8 justices because we haven't nominated another one, it could come down to a tie in the court as well.
And then you have the problem where it just gets out of control. And realistically, let's hope and pray as a nation that it isn't contested, that the winner is clearly there, and that the fraud is mitigated or before the election starts. They're already looking out for it. But the problem is we have states where they really don't care about fraud, or they say there is no fraud and just plausible deniability. Hey, well, we didn't have any, and they don't really know.
And so that's why this Supreme Court nomination is really important, because it provides that
Stability.
It provides that stability, and it provides that deciding vote if, God forbid, it does have to go to the Supreme Court.
Well, and realistically, as Americans, we really deserve a government that is well-functioning, and that's really what it boils down to. So it's going to be an interesting issue, and as well as we have more topics on the president.
Oh yeah, we will be coming back to this. It'll be interesting to see where this comes in the coming weeks. I believe he said that he actually will put forth his nomination this coming weekend. After, I believe, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's body will be on display in the Supreme Court this week, and there's a lot going on with that. But he's moving forward with the nomination process, as he should. That's his job. That's what he should do.
Doesn't mean it'll go anywhere in the Senate, and that's why everybody needs to simmer down, as we would say, and just calm down. Really.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit out of control. It, like we've discussed before, it's Trump derangement syndrome. Nancy Pelosi is getting ready to impeach him again over doing a job that he's supposed to do. He has no control over whether it gets through or not.
And it's sad that they're abusing the impeachment privileges that are given to them.
That would be twice in 1 year.
Well, and realistically,
twice in 1
year. Is
year.
there any legal grounds for that impeachment? And the answer is no. And they would argue, well, it's unfit for office, which is technically something they can use. But for him doing his job, I'm sorry, that just wouldn't stand up in a court of law.
It's ludicrous, and it's craziness. It really just comes down to they really hate Trump. They really don't like anything that he does, including making peace deals.
Right, and that's where we'll get into this Nobel Peace Prize issue. It's real interesting to see that he's actually been nominated twice. Most people probably wouldn't know that, but the president was nominated twice.
He was nominated back in 2018, correct? For a Nobel Peace Prize. He did not win that. And then
that was between North and South Korea, his efforts there,
which were astounding to see. He did some unprecedented things, walking in the demilitarized zone and meeting up with Kim Jong-un. They shook hands in this area that has been hotly contested, for decades. So that was really unique and amazing to see.
I was hoping to see more progress on that. I think it kind of went to the wayside for a little bit there, and now the coronavirus hasn't helped that matter. But this time, he's actually been put forth for the 2021 prize by a Norwegian politician.
So not the Republican Party. This isn't partisan politics. It's literally like the committee that, does the Peace Prize has nominated him.
Right, and there's for his merit, and this is a quote from the gentleman who has sponsored the nomination, for his merit, I think he has done more trying to create peace between nations than most other Peace Prize nominees. And realistically, and he also goes on to say that he's not a big Trump supporter. He said the committee should look at the facts and judge him on the facts, not on the way he behaves sometimes.
Wow, imagine that.
Oh, man, blow your mind. I mean, really, that's what it boils down to is, does he deserve it based on the facts of what he has done?
And let's look at that a little bit here. He helped barter this peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, which is huge. The Middle East has been aflame with controversy since the beginning of time.
Well, and the Kingdom of Bahrain has joined in as well, which is another Middle Eastern.
And so seeing these peace treaties and these peace deals, it's hopeful. It provides hope for that region, and hopefully some other nations there will hop on board and say, okay, we want to work together with them. We want to get on good terms with the U.S. We want to work with Israel, and hopefully that'll come out of that. But it really is unprecedented to see.
Well, and it really goes down to the other peace agreement that he has helped broker, which is huge, but really was glossed over in the news, and that's the agreement between Kosovo and Serbia. So this is actually...
Where are those, Nathan?
So they're in the Baltic States region of Europe, which is near the Mediterranean and Black Sea area. Greece is called part of the Baltic region. But it's real interesting because if you look at it, Kosovo gave the Order of Freedom to the President of the United States by their president. And the reason is for his exceptional contribution for the freedom of Kosovo and the strengthening of peace and reconciliation in the region.
That's not something you're going to hear on mainstream media.
No, and it really made a blurb of a headline and then was gone. But what happened was he oversaw the signing of the agreement between Serbia and Kosovo, which normalizes economic relations. And it also sees Kosovo recognizing Israel, huge step, okay? A lot of things have to tie in with Israel, which is very interesting. And Serbia agreeing to move its embassy to Jerusalem.
Wow.
So, all those things really, though, normalizing the economic relations, the history behind these countries, Kosovo declared its independence from Serbia in 2008. It really wasn't all that long ago.
Yeah, I can remember 2008.
Yeah, and 9 years after NATO conducted an airstrike campaign against Serbia in a bid to end the brutal persecution of ethnic Albanians in Kosovo. So, and that's all from the BBC. So what we're seeing, and that was from Fox News. But what we're seeing is he's trying to broker peace in the world in places where people usually just don't care.
Yeah, like that's not something we've heard of. That's not history I'm aware of, but it shows that he cares about more than just himself, more than just the U.S.
Well, and realistically, what economic importance is Kosovo and Serbia to the United States? Not much, okay? So realistically, what does the United States have to gain from that? Let's look at it in a realistic perspective. What does the world and those regions have to gain from that? We create smaller allies worldwide and help heal relationships instead of being the global police force. We're the global reconciliation force. We're the global let's join hands and kumbaya to some degree. That's what we need.
He's being the global social worker, which is what the defund the police movement is calling for, is, more social workers, less police work. Well, that's what this is. This is going into the world and helping broker peace and help build and strengthen relationships with, unthought of people.
Well, and Trump has taken a different approach to it. It's speak loudly and carry a big stick instead of speak softly and carry a big stick. And realistically, the reason I can say that is he has funded the military. He's sponsored our military and given it strength, okay? And uses that military as not a threat, but uses diplomacy as his outreach, but has the military just in case. Now, I don't think he would use it in these situations, but what I'm saying is he's understanding that diplomacy comes from a position of strength. And realistically, that's what a president's there for.
Yeah.
So on a lighter note...
on a totally different, lighter note, let's talk about the presidential candidate, Kanye West.
So I hear he hasn't actually made the ballot in a lot of states.
Not quite. He's struggled to get on the ballot. The birthday party, unfortunately, will not be represented on most ballots.
Is that really what his party is?
Yes, he's running as the birthday party because when he wins the election, it will be everyone's birthday, and he will run the White House and the country like the nation of Wakanda from Black Panther. Not making this stuff up. Like, you can't make this up.
This is like watching Looney Tunes play out in real life, but it's not funny. Like
it's Kanye West. A lot of people have thought that Kanye might be going through another manic episode through all of this. He has struggled.
What do you mean by manic episode?
He has struggled with bipolar disorder, and he's been kind of open about that and his mental health struggles. And so some of this might be a manic episode would be a high energy, a little bit spastic sort of episode. And so we've seen a lot coming out of Kanye on Twitter over the past several weeks and couple months. He's gone on some rants against his mother-in-law, Kris Jenner.
Oh, no.
I think he called her, he associated her with Kim Jong-un, which is not very nice.
And if you want him in charge of foreign diplomacy?
No, thank you. However, the most recent Kanye episode came out this past week when Kanye was talking about helping music artists get free from their record labels from the quote-unquote slavery of music contracts. And to really take his point and drive it home, he took one of his Grammys and put it in a toilet and urinated on it. And then uploaded that video to Twitter, because who doesn't want to see the craziest and richest artist just totally desecrate all over the music industry and their awards.
It's the only industry where you can celebrate yourself to some degree.
Yeah, we can dive into those awards and the Hollywood scene a bit more later on, and really kind of the implications of that. But it was just interesting to see Kanye kind of going off this week. His Twitter timeline really doesn't make any sense. Like, it reads like a cryptic novel. Like, it reads like 2 a.m. text messages or notes that you make to yourself.
Yeah. And like you were saying, some of them had to be clarified by the people in the comments, not necessarily by the original author.
Yeah, I looked through it. I was like, I really don't know what's going on here. And then, people reporting on what he was doing were able to tell me more about what it was.
Well, and you were saying something like he's now actually working with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
To some degree. I mean, I'm sure not in person working with her or anything, but
no. But Kanye's even advocating to try to help Taylor Swift get back some of the rights to her old music, which is now under control of Scooter Braun, famously known for helping Justin Bieber come to fame. So it's just interesting seeing what Kanye is doing. He's got his hand in a lot of different projects. Of course, late last year he came out as a Christian, started producing Christian music. He's been doing these Sunday services, which are really cool to watch. I watched a video from one of those today, and it's really inspiring just hearing all of these people singing praise. He's trying to build a ranch and his own, setup, even maybe a church out in Wyoming. Yeah.
Why Wyoming of all places?
There's lots of space. I don't know.
There's lots of space and nobody there.
He's, like we just said, he's trying to make a bid for the presidency, which is not really going to go anywhere.
Why? It must be a publicity stunt.
I really don't know if it's a publicity stunt or not. I mean, that's the whole
birthday party.
There's
got to be something. Like, who in all seriousness is going to run for the highest office in the world as the diplomatic leader of the strongest and most influential nation on earth?
Kanye West.
Oh man,
he's just crazy enough to do it.
Oh,
so we'll keep an eye on Kanye, and we'll let you know any future developments with that.
Well, speaking of crazy,
what's next week, Nathan?
Oh, we got Joe Biden
and President Trump going head to head in the first presidential debate.
It's on September 29th.
September 29th on Fox News.
Yep. And who's hosting it?
Being moderated by Chris Wallace.
Oh, moderated, yes. And I think Chris Wallace will do a good job. He's pretty middle of the road kind of a guy. He's tough to get a beat on sometimes, but I appreciate that, and I think he'll do a good job. And with it be having no audience, I think we're going to see a lot less heckling and booing and cheering and that kind of thing.
I think that allows for the viewers. I think they're expecting 70 million Americans to watch that, and I'm sure there'll be viewers from around the world watching that too. But it allows us as viewers to really...
they might be watching it around the world and laughing at us, but...
I'm sure they will be. I'll be watching it and laughing. We're going to have some popcorn and sit back and enjoy that. But it allows, without having an audience, due to the pandemic, it's going to allow a lot more straightforward facts and understanding of what's going on without having a crowd there to hype up one person's point or to boo somebody else. It really allows us to take things as they are and really see the candidates for who they are.
And you mentioned facts. All I can say is I hope there's facts. I hope the presidential candidates, and I know it won't, so I don't know why I'm saying this, but I would like to see them address issues and come back with policy and what they did. But I'm afraid that the zingers are going to be out there. And the zingers aren't always bad. It makes for fun moments, and you got to make some light of some of it because it gets so serious. But, I mean, I do hope to some degree that Biden pulls it together and can get through this.
Because otherwise it's going to be so cringy and so hard to watch.
But I really also, though, want it to be real. So what I mean is I don't want it to be a one-time, ooh, he did it, yay. I want it to be really what he would be like. I want him to show his true colors. And if his true colors means he can't put a sentence together, he can't get it right, then I want that. And I know that's horrible to say, but I want the American people to see what really you'd be electing on both sides. And that is critical. I don't think we should hide it behind, whatever it might be, whether it's, let's say he does a really fantastic job, then great. But I just don't want it to be hidden behind drugs, helping him. I don't want that. And I know the president's been advocating most recently in some of his rallies for a drug test before the debate. And realistically, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't believe there's anything wrong with that, because if there is something to hide, why would you be so against it? And Joe has come out and said, "Come on, man," this is famous, "Come on, man," and say like, "Oh, we don't need a drug test." Why, Joe? Really though, why are you against it? Answer the question. I mean, if you really have nothing to hide, go for it. If I was running and I was Joe, which, thankfully I'm not, but if I was, and some of the other opponents said, "Oh, we need a drug test," in order to say, "Yeah, sure, I'll have a drug test," whatever, then it would prove you wrong. It'd prove you like, "Oh, I got Tylenol in my system. Oh, whoop-de-doo." Kind of a thing like, see there. But he's everything Trump says you have to go opposite of, which it's the Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah. So what do you think the chances are that Joe Biden will come down with COVID-19 or something, and the debates will have to be postponed or canceled?
Well, I know there's a lot of talking heads out there as far as like conservative commentary out there saying that, "Oh, he's going to get COVID. You heard it first here," and it's opinion.
What do you think? What was statistically, like 20%, 30%?
If we're going to put a percentage on it, I'll go down by saying there's a 25 to 30%. I can't be quite exact. What would you say? I'll put you on the spot too.
Oh
now.
Man, dang it! I should have seen this one coming. Yeah, I'd like to think that they're gonna keep everything above the board and keep it level, and so yeah, I'd say 20 to 30% chance that it gets postponed due to nefarious play. But I really hope it happens, and like you said, that the truth is revealed, and that's really what I'm praying for. Is just that,
I want both candidates to fly their true colors. I don't want, and Joe's been flip-flopping on a lot of issues, okay? And specifically, I'll just talk about Joe here. He's been flip-flopping on a lot of issues, like ban fracking. No, I'm not going to ban fracking, this and that. And Joe, I want his true colors, his true policy, and what Kamala Harris stands for to come forth. What his policy positions are.
Yeah,
and I hope the same for Trump.
I really, like I said, I really just hope that the truth comes out, that we as Americans are able to be the most informed so we can make the best decision, because really that's what it comes down to. And I mean, we've already made our choice. We know that for a multitude of reasons we cannot and will not vote for Joe Biden based on the policies that he said he will enact. Based on his mental capacity. But
it really boils down to, I believe, and we'll get into this in further discussions, especially when we do a recap of the debate and that kind of thing. It boils down to one thing. This election is a decision between the America that we know. I'm not talking the protests, the violence. I'm talking you work hard, you get there, nothing is free. Okay, because you have to work for it.
Except the freedom of speech and religion.
Right? The freedoms we've granted ourselves and told the government hands off. Or do you want socialism? Through slow socialist progress. And it may not even be slow. That might be an exaggeration. And that is really what this election is. I mean, and that seems really doom and gloom, but
we have two very clear choices going down two very different paths. And so we want to encourage you to think twice about who you're voting for, dive deep into their policies and what they believe, and not only that, but look at what is the outcome of those choices and where will that take us.
And it really, the comfort that we have, regardless of who wins, is as Christians, we are signed and sealed, and we're in the Lamb's Book of Life, and we're saved.
We know how the story ends.
We know that good will always triumph evil in the end. It may not seem that way. And the Lord Jesus Christ, we're covered. We're safe. Now it doesn't mean we're safe from persecution, doesn't mean we're safe from man-made things and issues, but we know how the story ends, and we have true freedom, and we have true joy in knowing that no matter what happens, we know who's in charge.
And so we may still stand up and fight for, our freedom as Americans.
We're called to. We're called to stand up for what's right.
But we know, like you said, we know that no matter what happens, no matter how this election goes down, no matter what the rest of 2020 or even 2021 throws at us, we know that we know how the story ends. We know that, Christ has already overcome death, and that we will reign with him in eternity in heaven. And so we don't have anything to be afraid of. And so we stand firmly and confidently on that hope.
On the Lord Jesus Christ and his holy scriptures. And on that note,
we want to thank you guys so much for listening to this second episode of the Already Canceled podcast. Be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to.
Share with all your friends.
And your enemies. Post it on your social media. Put it in your yard in a yard sign next to, your Trump or Biden or Kanye West sign. Whatever,
there
whatever
we go.
you got.
There we go.
And until next time,
we'll see you.
Fellas, you have got what appears to be a dynamite sound.
I can't believe you've done this.
Thank you for your patronage.
I'll be back.
Oh, that's hot.
Not a single thing he said is accurate.
Bye!